Well, we are back for another episode of the Content Coaching Corner, and I have a very short but value-packed episode for you. Today, I'm going to teach you a method called the 5x5. Now, at full disclosure, this is something that was introduced to me about a month ago when I was in a mastermind. Basically, the premise of the 5x5 is to evaluate and analyze what other creators in your industry are doing so that you can replicate in your own way the same systems that they are creating when they write content and create content, put content out there. So we're going to dive right into this. But before we do that, I think right now would be a really good time for you to pause and make sure that you are familiar with the BES strategy. Now, if you're going BES strategy, what is that, Katie? You can find a training right here in the Content Coaching Corner. The BES strategy stands for brand awareness, engagement, and sales. As a direct seller or a network marketer, social seller, whatever you identify as, you need to have 3 specific types of content when you are posting on social media. You aren't posting like an influencer. You're not doing it for likes and you're not doing it for follows. You are doing it to have your audience think about what you do, how you do it uniquely, and ultimately how to get them to purchase what you're offering, opt into a freemium that you offer, because you're trying to make sure that you are relevant and associated back to what you sell and what industry you are a part of. Now, if you have not seen the BES strategy training, I want you to click pause on this and I want you to go back to that training. Once you push play again on this training, today we're going to talk specifically about how to boost engagement. And engagement is all about visibility. Visibility and profitability, they're kind of like partners. When you create more visibility of your brand, you're creating more awareness, and more awareness is going to create more engagement. With more engagement comes more opportunity to create sales. That doesn't mean that visibility is going to equate to profitability. It just means that they are going to be connected together. It doesn't always mean that you can't have one without the other. It just means that they complement each other. So going back to what I was saying, the 5x5 method was introduced to me back in March of 2024. Now, the creator of this method spoke how she would just evaluate and analyze what those around her were doing to actually go viral. Now, again, I state, virality does not mean profitability, but visibility is important to your business. That's why in the BES method, engagement is a big part of the strategy. Now, when she introduced that, she started to look for trends. She started to ask herself, okay, well, why does certain content go viral? And what she did is she went through a creator's content, and this is somebody who is pretty well known or renowned in the industry. They have a lot of followers, and she wanted to see what they were doing to not just create the same amount of likes, engagement, watch time on their reels, but she was looking specifically at the reels that were going viral, that the ones that were creating a lot of conversation, creating a lot of comments. And so she started to see very specific patterns and trends that could be very much duplicated on the page. So just a quick recap before I go into what the 5x5 method is about why engagement matters. Number 1, visibility matters. We want to set goals to increase reach. We don't need to get likes. We don't need to get followers. We ultimately want to set goals that increase our reach. Number 2, engagement content is what keeps people coming back. Instagram rewards you for showing content that comes up in the explore option. So if you have content that's doing really well, chances are that somebody who engaged with that content is going to see you in their explore page. The third, it complements your sales content and your brand awareness content. So we know that brand awareness is all about the value you add that is associated back to what you do. We also know that sales content is absolutely necessary so people know the doors to your business are open and they know how to connect with you, whether that's through a freemium or that is through an actual piece of sales content. But engagement content is all about visibility. So in this method, with a 5x5 method, what we are going to do is analyze why specific content catches by selecting 5 accounts that your ideal client is likely going to be interested in and engaging with. So this might possibly be a complementary account of another direct seller who has a similar style or similar message to you, but you are looking for accounts that have a pretty large reach. They are established accounts. They are well known and they tend to have a message on repeat. So what we are going to do is select 5 of those accounts. Again, you are looking for accounts that are bigger. You are looking for established accounts. You are looking for accounts that have a very loyal following, and you can tell that by how they are engaging, how they are interacting, how they are commenting with those people. And you also notice that there is a level of confidence with how they are speaking on social media. This might be somebody that you aspire to be like. You might not necessarily see everything the same, but you know that this would be an account that is beneficial to your ideal client. We're looking at complementary accounts. We are not being competitive here and we are not comparing. We are going in, analyzing their account to look for certain trends. Remember, when we track those trends, they reveal a truth and the truth creates change. And we are looking for very specific trends on their social media. So now that you have selected 5 accounts, you are going to take some time. And I always suggest you take your time blocker out. You're then going to write time out in your time blocker. This might be 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You're going to go through the reels that they have posted on their account. And you're actually going to click on the Reels button on their account. So all you're seeing on their grid is their Reels. And you will see what their reach is. You will be able to see the watch, the views of each Reel. But you're going to look for something very specific. You're not looking for the ones that you liked or you enjoyed. You are looking for the Reels that have a much higher reach than their other Reels. So for example, if you look at their Reels and they average about 5,000 to 7,000 views, but then you come across one that has 20,000 or 50,000, bingo. That is what you are looking for. You are looking for something that is higher reach than everything else that they have created. Once you find that, you're going to click on it and you're going to save it. You're going to then start a collection. And for me, I call it 5x5 Teresa or 5x5, I don't know, like Natalie, or 5x5 Melanie. And that tells me who's the account it belongs to and what piece of viral content is going to go in there. So once you do that, you're going to do that with 5. You're going to find 5 post reels that had extreme visibility compared to the other ones that they had. There's a couple of things that I should note here. Sometimes there might be viral content or content that got a really high reach that you look at and you go, that's great for them. That actually wouldn't do well for me. And this is wild card content. So for example, if their child said something really, really funny and they posted it and it went crazy because their audience absolutely loved it, but you're like, well, that's not really valid or important for my audience. You're not going to save those types of reels. You're looking for ones that you would be able to duplicate the same idea. So once you have 5, you're then going to look for specific trends. What was the language they used? How were they speaking? What was their call to action? What were their captions like? How long were the reels? And you're just going to put on your glasses and you're just going to look at everything from an analytical perspective, not from a personal perspective. You're just going to go in and say, okay, what is it about this piece of content that had that boom factor? And chances are it had something to do with keywords. It had something to do with their hooks. It had something to do with what they said. Maybe it was a pain point or they ruffled feathers in some way. And what you're going to say to yourself is, how could I take this piece of content, tweak the messaging so that it speaks to my ideal client? It isn't about repeating the same thing. It is really about taking an idea, knowing that it hits a pain point for your ideal client, because these 5x5s are people that should be the same type of clientele. You both are serving the same type of clientele. You both are serving the same ideal client or ideal audience or team member. So once you do that, you're asking yourself, how can I take this same idea and recreate it in a way that feels very intentional to me? Now, you are looking for any content that outperformed the other content. I really want to emphasize that. Here's what I learned when I did this for myself. Number one, there are a lot of content creators who have really high reach, but there are very few content creators who create that boom factor. You may find yourself going, I can't really find the boom factor. I can't really find anyone who's creating content that outperforms other content. Go on to the next. The other thing that you are going to note is that sometimes the accounts that you're looking to and you're going, they're really good, they actually aren't creating content that serves really well. It's just engagement content alone. So you are looking at it and going, if I can't recreate this, it might not be a post that's worth saving to me. So you want to make sure that the posts you are saving to your collections are going to be content that you yourself could picture refurbishing in some way. Here's what's really cool. If you do this with 5 creators and you find 5 pieces of content, you now have 25 pieces of content that have already proven to Instagram that they're going to perform really well. What you have to ask yourself is, can I recreate this? Can I put my own spin on it? Will it speak to my ideal client? And can I change it in some way so that people take some type of action with it, whether it's they're commenting or they're opting in or they're learning more about the products that you have to offer. Those are a couple of things that you want to consider when it comes to the 5x5 method. Also, keep in mind that when you are looking for the content, you are taking into consideration that sometimes their viral content, the ones that outperform, is wildcard content that you can't recreate. Everything that you save to the collections should be things that you immediately go, yes, I could recreate this. I could put a twist on it. This makes sense to me and my audience. So instead of just mindlessly scrolling, which is a really bad habit for so many people in direct sales, we're going to get really intentional with our scroll. So here's what you're going to do today. You are going to go to 5 accounts. And in those 5 accounts of people who post like you, who you already know that your ideal client would be going to, you're going to select 5 pieces of standout content that does better than all of the rest of their content, whatever that might look like for them. And you're going to save that content if and only if it is content that you believe that you could repurpose. Take your time on this. I don't recommend getting it all done in one day. I am still building out my 5x5. So take your time on it, but you're going to start to notice trends. And I want to just end with this. When you are tracking this, whether it's in an Excel document or you are doing it in a Google document, wherever you are tracking this, or maybe it's just in your collections, you want to remind yourself that tracking reveals trends. Everything that is taking off on social media, there's something about it that is trending, that hits a point, that hits a pain point or resonates with your ideal client. And that is probably right in front of you. By doing the 5x5 method, you're going to start tracking, you're going to see trends, and you're going to start to see a truth about why certain content connects. And that is exactly why we are going to work on the 5x5 method. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this month's Content Coaching Corner. We'll see you next time.